it would be at the year 20 where you would see the full amount of 9,200 if we can get that agreement to extend the borrowing over 20 years. If we only get the 12 years, which they've agreed to at this point, that 9,200 approximate value would then get bumped up to at the start of year 13. So we're going to continue to push very hard to try to borrow that extra time. And then the other point that I really want to reiterate again is that we're not going to move forward with upgrades just because this high level initial assessment says we have to. If the system comes over to us, there's going to be a lot more work that has to be done and due diligence to develop that capital plan and try to extend the life of the infrastructure as much as possible and hopefully be able to push these numbers out even further in that regard. Just some of the assumptions that went into these numbers. So again, I have to reiterate, we're projecting a worst case scenario. If the RDOS takes over the system, we need to be able to have the borrowing power for that worst case scenario, but we're certainly hopeful that we don't have to spend that full amount, and we're certainly going to do all the work possible to not spend all that amount. I try to liken it in my own mind to a line of credit on my house. If I need to take out a line of credit because I might need access to that money to replace a roof or something else, I'm not going to draw on that money unless I absolutely need it. And this would be a similar approach. MFA rate would change after the first 10 years. The MFA rate shown here is based on September 5th, which is 4.82%. And I just caution that that rate's changing daily. So sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. Jim, being the former CFO that he is, I think he checks it daily, and he just informed me it went earlier this week, it went up a little bit, then today it went down a bit. So don't get too hung up on exactly what that number is, because it's gonna fluctuate, I guess, is the point I want to make. And as we enter that 8th year, and I would suggest that even before that, we will be doing these assessments and reevaluations, as I've mentioned, to further understand the infrastructure and to hopefully be able to further delay some of the projects. So with that, that is my very quick summary. As I mentioned, we really want to be here to hear from you, answer whatever questions we can. If there's any questions we aren't able to answer, we will certainly follow up. And again, I encourage people even beyond tonight, this isn't the one and done by any means. We're staff are always available to help answer your questions. And again, we just really want to make sure that you have the facts and information that's accurate, and so that you can make an informed decision. We do have our email address, a couple email addresses up there if you want to take note. And the Regional Connections web page, as I mentioned at the beginning, we really like using that web page and posting the questions on there and the answers, and that way everyone is seeing the same information. So with that, we are going to open it up for question period.
Hello, my name is Eric. I'm with Communications and Engagement with the RDOS. I'm going to be the mic holder for you. We're looking for about 3 minutes maximum, I believe, for questions, just so we can get as many in as we can. This presentation is being recorded and will be online tomorrow on RDOS Regional Connections. Hello, David. And the PowerPoint presentation you saw will also be online tomorrow on RDOS Regional Connections. So if anyone has a question, if you wouldn't mind coming up to where I am, and you can feel free to line up if you'd like. Come on up and ask your question. And I wouldn't mind if I could. I saw a sign over there that said something about delaying the vote. I don't know if anybody would like to address that to start with. There is no intent to delay the vote, but you can't hold a vote until you have enough information.
Yeah, I guess I could comment, and I'm certainly not the expert here, but I can share that at this point, the vote would not happen this fall. It will be into next year. And a lot of that is related to, one, we want to make sure everyone has the information they need, and two, the legislative requirements of the timelines of advertising, so on and so forth, basically put us at minimum into next year, and likely maybe early spring at this point.
And just to add one more thing, the vote was delayed already. It was supposed to be, this year. And as stated by Mr. Fillion, we moved, it's going to be no earlier than spring of next year.
All right, looks like we have our first question. I'm just going to hold the mic if you don't mind, but I'll make sure we can hear you.
Hi. I was just wondering, if you're looking at the yes vote, how come we are buying somebody else's liability, even if it is just $1? Like, why are we, what, have you looked at what if we become competitors with them? Like, forget their lines and all that, maybe buy the big water tanks, but you're already talking that most of the piping all needs to be redone anyways. So why do we not become a competitor instead of taking his maybe $33 million, his liability?
I'll take a crack at that. Good question. We are looking at your water utility. Right now, it's a private utility. The province has been running it. If you need to continue having a water source that is potable and safe, we need to spend, if you say yes, we need to spend $33 million. It has to be upgraded by us or the province. So we're not competing or not buying anything. We're taking something over. Our policy is if a utility comes to the regional district, we pay $1 for it. But then we have to make sure that the infrastructure is upgraded to the point where it's safe for you to drink. And if it's not, we have to charge you to upgrade it. We have 165 services. 12 of those are water services. They are not, they're also self-sustaining. That means they have to pay their own way. If it's a yes vote, you will be the 13th water system. So we're not buying from a $33 million. We're not buying it from the owner. We're upgrading the infrastructure.
Which means the wrecked stuff. That stuff is all liability to us now, all the piping and all that, because it's all corroding, you tell us. So we're buying his liability for $1.
So your choice is, do you want a water system run by us? Do you want a water system run by the province? This is your choice, and we're here to give you the information so you can make an informed choice. And that will be the province's issue, not ours.
Just want to mention we have a couple of guests online with the province. Alan, I'm not sure if you can tell us exactly who they are. We have Connie Chapman and James Mack. We really would like you to use the microphone if you can so they can hear you. This meeting wasn't offered as an online meeting because the technology to do it properly is a bit challenging at this time. So we thought what we would do is have Teams so we can bring these two guests in from a remote area. We also have one of our electoral area directors, Matt Taylor, on. But in order for them to hear you, it would be great if you could use the microphone, please, and go ahead, sir.
So I believe at some point in time in the past, we were told that until the RDOS officially took over the water system, they wouldn't be able to apply for grants. Is that correct? In a nutshell?
Yes, that is correct. And typically that is the approach that is taken with these grants. But there is a little bit of flexibility in a situation like this where it's a system that we're potentially taking over. So that grant application is happening and it is going in this week.
Okay, so with that being said, that's that UBCM Strategic Priorities Fund and up to $7 million.
Up to $7 million, correct.
So would that come off the $33 million if it goes through? If you get like 6 or something like that?
Correct. Yes, it would come off that total number.
And we would know that before we vote?
Sorry, I probably no. So I probably missed. I meant to mention that. Likely timelines for that grant announcement is we have been told from the province next spring, but I do know from personal experience that sometimes those dates slip. So it wouldn't surprise me if it's creeps even closer a bit to summer. So that decision isn't, that information isn't imminent.
Yeah, could we delay the vote until that is done? Because that's what we talked about that a couple meetings ago on, can we try to procure as much as we can, or at least have a better understanding of what we're going to get before we make this vote, because it's too huge with nothing. It's too big of a gamble. But if next spring we get told of the 33 million, well, 7 million just got covered, well, it might make it a lot easier to, we'd have information, none of which we have now.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate the challenge. I guess the only comment I could share is the board will make a decision on when that vote is held. The one caution I would give is that the longer we delay, the interest on 33 million is significant. So each year that gets delayed in getting these projects starting has a significant impact as well. But I just want to make sure you're aware of that information. That's all.
Jim wanted to jump in on some of the financial numbers.
So that is something that the board will be given an option to look at. Definitely that is doable if we go to the board and they agree. However, the decision makers for the grant applications, we have a better chance if the regional district owns the utility. But as long as we continue the process and that there's interest in the vote, then I think the powers to be that decide at UBCM, we might have a chance. There would be a risk. And if that's something that is considered, we would take it to the board as a risk, and then the board makes a decision, not staff. And just as I said earlier, it has been delayed already significantly to spring.
I have a question to you to answer to every person in this room. What about our property values? They have already depleted at this point because of what's going into the media. Nobody is buying right now with the situation the way it is. And I'd like to know what your answers might be, particularly for those people that have to sell because of business or health or personal reasons. Obviously, our market value has gone down, and it'll continue to go down the longer this goes on.
So just previously, we had the question of extending it to summer. That extends the issue you just had. The issue you just brought up is not created by the regional district. We were asked to see if we could take it over. We spent a considerable amount of time, and I can honestly tell you, as far of the 165 services that we have, I spent more time on this one service than all the rest. We are trying our best to make this happen. As far as the assessment goes, like I said, we inherited this. It could have been an easy sell, and the directors could have said, no, we don't want it. We didn't do that. We're trying to make this happen. And ultimately, if we upgrade it to the standards where you have healthy water, your assessments should go up again. But as far as saying the regional district help in reducing your assessments, no. All right. Well, on the water issue, if this gentleman is saying it's going down because the water isn't there, there's a possibility it can go up. It's funny, I can't say it will, but as far as telling the regional district that it's our responsibility, it's not.
Follow up if you could.
So basically, you're passing the buck back to, I mean, who's responsible for this? The people in this room are not responsible for what's happened here. Nobody even knew about this water system. And the provincial government who took it over from the Chapmans did absolutely nothing.
So I'm going to stop you there and ask if you could ask a question. I appreciate you have a lot to say, but we're going to try and get as many people in as we can to ask questions. Did you have a follow-up question?
That's what I said.
Thank you very much. Just to keep it on track, if you don't mind. We've heard a lot of the history before, but now we're going to go to some questions. Go ahead, sir.
Mine is, I have a quick comment. First of all, we as residents develop a level of trust in our community infrastructure to make sure that our electrical and our water and all that kind of stuff is in place. I feel like, I think many people do, that somebody dropped the ball 30 years ago when the provincial government took over control of the system. I didn't find out as almost a 30-year resident of this area until a year ago that basically hair on fire, our water system is breaking. We have to fix it right now. You're all going to be responsible for about $134,000 worth of upgrades to this system. I would like to know why the provincial government now, I know it's a different government, but why they're not stepping up, because they took over control 30 years ago, and why they're not stepping up now and just saying, we're going to fix this because we should have informed the residents of this community 30 years ago that the serious upgrades are going to be needed.
Thanks. I just want to check on screen. I want to check on the screen that, first of all, you can hear the questions okay, and that you've got the ability to answer them, because I think this is some of the comments that citizens wanted to hear.
Sure.
So again, James Mack on the bottom left-hand corner there is the ADM for Walrus, and Connie
Yep.
Chapman is in the department as well. Over to you, James.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Riley. I guess, I'll just start on the provincial role. So right now, this is a private water utility. We have many of these in the province. I would just add the challenges facing small systems and those run by private utilities. Like a lot of them are facing these issues around drinking water and infrastructure upgrades. Our role really as the regulator of that water utility is making sure that your money as a ratepayer is used in an appropriate way by the private owner of that water system. So when the province took that role as the financial management role, it was really to make sure that those payments by ratepayers went to that private owner. It is the private owner and the ratepayers who are responsible for that system. And I think the regional district has talked about that. So we've actually had, limited abilities to be involved in that. And we play this kind of role as a regulator across BC. We have looked at rate increases over time. Those have been done to try to build up reserves in that system. We are limited when it's a privately owned utility in terms of what can be done. Should you choose to move to the regional district, it would become public infrastructure, and that's why there's consideration about providing public grants to the system. So, private utilities are borne by that private owner and the ratepayers. Entering into a public system like a regional district, knowing that comes with a lot of considerations, but one is it does make you eligible to get taxpayer funded grants. And it does come with some of those debt servicing abilities that local governments can provide. So that's effectively the situation we're in. There are no abilities for us within a regulator program to provide funding into privately owned water systems.
So we're going to go back to questions unless you had something to add,
Nope.
Director Gittins.
Next question.
I'm just going to mention the gentleman. We're going to try and get everybody to cycle through, and then if you don't mind going after, if you've already asked a question, if you don't mind, just so we can get as many people through as possible. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, so we all got a letter from the comptroller of water rights, and in it says that the Sage Mesa Water System is a privately owned utility that has been under the comptroller of water rights management since 1990 due to historical issues related to financial mismanagement and system deterioration. So has the Chapman family been responsible for setting the rates at any point in time since 1990? And if not, who has been responsible for setting the rates? And the reason why I'm asking the question is because these reasons here, system deterioration, means that our contingency fund should have been better built up. And because it's a private water system, we have not had access to financial statements. I'm an accountant. I could have looked at them for 2 minutes 20 years ago and said that there was a problem with the contingency reserve. So somebody has definitely dropped the ball. Right? That's just the reality. To pretend that nobody has is ridiculous. If we did have $15 or $20 million in our contingency reserve, I think we'd all be feeling a lot better about what's happening right now. But we were not given the opportunity or given the information when we moved here to make better decisions.
Thanks. So can I just in light of time, I'm just going to check in with James. Do you have any comments on around setting the rates and whose responsibility that is and how that works?
Sorry about that. Connie, did you want to talk about sort of our role versus the owner's role?
Yeah, for sure. So private water utilities, the owners under the regulation, they submit a rate application to the controller of water rights. The controller of water rights in a normal situation goes out, does engagement with the customers, and then makes a determination on that application. And that's really to ensure that the money that is being charged for that rate is fair, and also within that space of being able to manage the system and build up those reserve funds. Under the current legislation, the controller of water rights does not have the discretion to tell a private water utility to submit a rate application. That is all upon the discretion of the owner. We can encourage, but we cannot tell them they have to increase their rates. In the event of Sage Mesa, when the province took over the utility, or not the province, when the controller of water rights seized the utility in 1990, the day-to-day management was then managed by the controller of water rights, and the legislation still has to be followed in the same manner. And so from 2009 into 2019, the Sage Mesa rates have actually increased 5 times to build up that reserve fund. The challenge with building up these reserve funds, so currently roughly, I believe it is 35% goes towards the reserve fund of your rate, is that this takes a while. And as we continue to see increased costs and other costs just with the day-to-day operations, they don't build and grow as quickly as possible. The Controller of Water Rights Office and staff have been looking at a rate application in regards to Sage Mesa to further build up those reserve funds, and that is something that is currently being considered. One of the things that we have been cognizant of is just the acquisition of the RDOS, and have been trying to navigate the situation as best as possible with the RDOS and the running of the utility, recognizing the decisions that the Chapman-Phillip family as the private owner has been making in regards to the acquisition. And just to be clear, the Controller of Water Rights has no involvement in regards to the acquisition between the RDOS and the Chapman family.
Thanks.
I thank you for your answer. I've got one more follow-up question just about the $33 million. So just pretend that there's a yes vote on the 33 million. So how long does the RDOS have to draw on those funds? Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years?
So we asked that question if we can extend it. Usually it's 5. We asked if we can do 10. We got a yes, then we asked if we can do 20. We got I asked for it in writing, and we got 12. We're still waiting for the 20. But so earlier there was a PowerPoint that showed you, it said year 1 through 20. So the parcel taxes will be dependent from year 1 through 8. That would be specific, and we can borrow that. After that, we don't have to borrow the full 33 million. We can draw what we need. And if it turns out, let's say we get the grant and we actually find out it's $10 million less, we borrow and draw only what we need. It could be a lot less. One of the things I do want to point out is there's 27 regional districts, 27 CAOs, and I've been asked to sit on a utility acquisition committee to make sure this things doesn't happen anymore. And in my presentation, when I will go to Victoria, I'm actually speaking about Sage Mesa, and there's 2 other utilities that the regional district has taken over, and there's not as much as 33, but one is 23 million, and another one is 15 million. One of them was a private utility, one of them was an irrigation district. But because this one is so drastic, this is what I'm pointing, and I'm hoping to get something out of that. No guarantee. The goal is to see if the province can change the way that they treat the private utilities, because ultimately, the only time private utilities want to come to the regional district is when they're in dire need of infrastructure upgrades. And this is the case here. So earlier we were said that it's our fault because assessments go up. This happens all the time throughout the 27 regional districts. And we determined at a meeting with all 27 of us, not live, it was a Zoom meeting, that this is a high priority.
So I guess another way I'd look at this too is that a home is probably the biggest investment a person's ever going to make. And right now, it sounds like before funding would come through, we're going to be asked to make this financial decision. And I think that's incredibly unreasonable to make a financial decision on maybes. So we're absolutely lacking information right now. And you don't need to respond to that. That's just a comment.
Okay. All right, next, come on up. Go ahead, please.
Just a quick question about a potential funding resource. In the Castanet, August 26th, there was an article about BC receiving $326 million from the Canada Community Building Fund. And in reading that article, it seemed like there was a possibility that something like our situation may be eligible. I don't know if that's been looked into. It wasn't mentioned in the slides, so just thought I'd ask.
So there's a fund that every local government gets and regional districts also get it, and it's split by the 9 electoral areas. And that's usually the director actually contributes for specific capital projects.
Sorry, just if I may just
Yes.
hop in. So we had this question earlier as well. Sorry, I don't know where that one went. So we do get this annual gas, it's not gas tax. I don't know. That's just the old name of gas tax. And for Area F, we get $138,000 a year. So it's not that big chunk of money. That 7 million grant is another leg of that same funding, but it's based on population, the one that you're talking about. So it sounds really great in the media. It's a great headline, but the actual impact's 138,000. Generally, we use that on parks. Municipalities tend to use it on the roads. It's already there.
Go ahead, sir.
Hey, my name's Lucas. Me and my wife bought our house here a year and a half ago, and we had no idea of this issue. And my question is this to the province. If the province took over management in 1990 because it was being poorly managed, what has the province specifically done differently?
James?
Yeah, so, well, and just to say, I'll mention this program came into the ministry I worked in October 2023. So, I just want to flag that we're all sort of figuring out and learning as we're going. The issues that we had around that original decision was that the monies that were being provided by ratepayers weren't being used appropriately for the benefit of the utility. And so that was why the province moved in and stopped that. So in terms of what was done differently, that role, which is very much focused on appropriate use of those ratepayer monies, your monies, is making sure that they go to that system. We've still kept that, that system is really the operators and the homeowners. We have worked with rate increases over time. I would, say, I know that it doesn't meet the scale of the challenge in front of you, but the reserve available to this system is actually in better shape than many small utilities. I would say it's like, as a province, we see this situation happen all across BC. We do, as a policy, this is longstanding, have tried to encourage small private systems to move into local government models so that we can look at them as public infrastructure. And then there's an argument for providing taxpayer money into them. And we've been working with RDOS to try to see if that's a possible move. Again, that's a choice you get to make, but those are some of the efforts into place. I would add the delays in making the decision have made this, it just increases the pressure of the decision in front of you. I'll add, it's very rare to have the flexibility in terms of the grant application that's RDOS has made. Most times, they want that assurance that you're into a local government model. They don't want to provide a taxpayer funded grant to a privately owned system. In this case, there's flexibility to help groups in transition like you. And as mentioned, we have written both at a technical level and with our minister to try to support that. We really see as a province, we really do encourage these systems to try to move into a local government model because there's just more options to try to tackle these issues.
All right, we have quite a few people waiting, unless you have a really quick follow-up.
Yeah, I just want to say as a regulator, I think the responsible thing to do is to collect the necessary funds to pay for the system where we're at right now.
Okay, another question.
I can't resist a comment first. It'll be quick. The government, it's skirt. My understanding is it's 35 years ago, you took this over for lack of chlorination and lack of reserve funding. We're 35 years down the road. We have lack of chlorination and lack of reserve funding. You can skirt all you want, but I don't blame the RDOS. This is, I don't want to answer from you because I have a question for them. This is 100% on the province. We all know that in this room. I would love the RDS to fight you to step up to that first. That brings to my question. Given that we have the funding coming in 2006, you might have some more information about from the city in 2006. You have more information from the band in 2006. I know you say delaying makes a province less susceptible, but you told me that the grant announcement might be made before we vote anyways. Why don't we wait till we have actual information for that? Because then we can make an informed decision because we know exactly what the options are and we can have a discussion. Right now you're saying give us $33 million leeway as a line of credit. Trust you, this guy's been here for you years. You may all change. So the next government officials, you're just saying, please don't spend our money. That's what you're saying. Give us 33 million and please don't spend it. Is what you want to say. Why don't you wait till they have information so we can make the educated vote?
Yeah. So I think with the referendum, good point, good comments. So the referendum, as you know, was initially going to be at the end of this year. And then we had that discussion and the fellow that asked about the grant, that was the information at the time that you couldn't get grants unless you were part of the local government. The grant that we did apply for is a lot more generous in that it does allow for this because I think the province would like to see this happen. And I think that's why they're allowing that flexibility. I don't disagree with your comment. The board hasn't set the referendum date. I don't think anybody's in a big rush to do that. We've got UBCM at the next month, so maybe something will happen there and then we need to discuss it further with the board. But your point's well taken. And I think at the board level, what we don't know is like there's a criteria for that UBCM grant that will be measured on. What we know is there'll be more people, more systems asking for money than what's available. So is it better to not have it over at the RDOS? Like, are they willing to give us some money in case there is a yes? Or is it better to like just stand back and wait, give us the money and then we'll decide yes? And that, I don't have the answer to that. So I think it's a worthy question. I think I offer insight, like please welcome your insight on that. That's the balance that we're going to try and figure out. But your point's I think it's a good point. I think it's good.
Okay, we're going to keep going. We're trying to get as many residents in to ask questions as possible. We do have a media question here from a West Bench resident, so hopefully you can keep it quick so we can get the other folks in.
So since 2009, I believe it was said that there has been some money going to reserves. This is for the province. Was there any money going beforehand into reserves? And what is the actual reserve? And does that transfer over if the RDOS takes over?
Thank you.
The province can correct me. I believe it was just over 600,000. And if it's a yes vote, it's mandatory that all reserves come to the regional district. One thing I want to add about this, the vote, we've applied for a $7 million grant for Sage Mesa before we own the utility. We have a total of 12 other water systems that we could apply that could use that same money. If we wait and we get the $7 million grant for you, great. But then if you vote no, that $7 million goes away where we could have had the others. So you got to know we've given you priority. And as far as delaying the vote, then that's up to the board, not staff.
Quick follow-up.
To the province, just following up on that, the part about since 2009, there have been the 5 rate increases, which have seen some increases go specifically to reserves. Were there any increases prior to 2009 with any that went to reserves, or has it only been in the last 15 years that there's been money directed to reserves?
Ronnie, do you have that information on hand, or would we have to follow up?
I think I would want to follow up with the exact specifics. I know from 1990 onwards, and really 2009 is kind of where I know because I came into the program kind of early in the early 2010s. But I do know in 1990 that rates were reviewed and adjusted to rebuild the reserve funds, because when the province stepped in, there were no reserve funds at all, and there was work that needed to happen at that point in time. But we can follow up with very specifics on that. What I will say is what I will say is from 2009 to 2019, there was a large focus on ensuring that there was a substantial amount of rate going into the reserve fund to build up that reserve fund, recognizing the work that was coming.
I just want to also say it's 7:30. I know it's stinking hot in here, so I appreciate everybody hanging in, but just to kind of keep it going so we can get through everybody.
Hey, and that information that Connie Chapman mentioned, any new information that comes in that we can add, we'll certainly put on the RDOS Regional Connections website as an update. Go ahead, please.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Ann Gullen. I was your Area F Director from 1999 to 2005. I'm here in support of the Sage Mesa Water ratepayers because I think what's happening is terribly difficult for you, and I'm so sorry to see it happening. My question is there an acknowledgement in the current contractual arrangements or with the current engineering studies with existing contractual arrangements? In 2007, the City of Penticton passed a resolution with regard to supply of water to the West Bench Irrigation District. Contained within that resolution included necessary upgrades for the system, but it also indicated require the ability to address future expansion to service Sage Mesa. West Bench was responsible for 100% of the capital and operating costs, including but not limited to design, construction, tie-in, and land acquisition. Under this arrangement, the regional district promoted with the West Bench Irrigation District users that under this arrangement, Sage Mesa Water District would be required to pay a latecomer fee towards the costs with these upgrades. So special upgrades were contained within this system upgrade to include Sage Mesa.
I ask you to ask your question if you don't mind, rather than the background on the history of this, if you don't mind, just to keep it moving.
City of Penticton accepted grants in 2009. The first one, 3.4 million, to water system upgrades to supply water. And again, they had extra grants. So my question is there an acknowledgement of these contractual arrangements with the current engineering studies?
Thank you very much.
I don't have all the history, but what I can offer again and reiterate is that if the system comes over to the RDOS, there is a lot of due diligence and further work we have to do to evaluate the best options. And we are going to recommend and move forward with the most feasible cost solution for the residents. And that may be it, but that may not be it using that existing booster station at West Bench. That will have to be determined. And again, we want the most cost-effective, feasible solution. So all options will be considered.
I just want to add, you mentioned the word latecomer. Under the provincial regulations, a latecomer is only valid for 15 years. So that would have to be relooked at by the City of Penticton.
Okay, we have, it looks like 3 other people who have questions. So I think we'll get to those 3 questions. And then I think at that point, we're probably done for the night, unless you wanted to keep going. But hello, go ahead, sir.
So my question is around the McElhaney report. You know, $33 million, big number. And a lot of you know what most of you up front know what I do for a living. So what is the date of that McElhaney report?
Sorry, Myron's trying to, I believe it's about 2 years ago now, but is that correct? Yeah, that's about 2 years ago.
So, and the reason I asked that question, and can you also tell me what class estimates that $33 million is coming off of?
Yeah, these would be Class D. Like this is a very high level assessment. And that's why I reiterate, if RDOS takes over ownership, We have a lot more work to do to develop a capital plan, and we will delay whatever infrastructure projects we are able to delay and ensure we're getting maximum life out of the assets.
And just most people may not know what Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D
yes.
estimates are. So can you just provide some context into what that is and how that might change that $33 million?
Yes, so thank you for clarifying. So Class D is kind of the highest level. It contains a 40% contingency within it. It's an estimate based on the least amount of information. So as you develop more information, you evolve to a Class C and a Class B, and a Class A ultimately is when you're going out to tender and you've secured pricing. So this is like the highest level that we're at right now, and therefore it has to be conservative. And the RDOS also has to be conservative in the number to ensure that we have that borrowing power. But hopefully, as we develop the program further, we're able to find efficiencies and we're able to find some cost effectiveness, and we are going to develop the most cost effective feasible solution for the residents.
In 1990, the province of BC seized control of the Sage Mesa Water System due to deficiencies. For 35 years, the province, not the private owner, I want to make that clear, the private owner had no control of this system for 35 years, and it's not the RDOS. This system has been managed and neglected by the province. So my questions are, and I've got several, why did the province seize it if you can't do the job under your own regulations?
We go to the answer for that one. Would you like to answer? Anybody from the province able to jump in on that one?
Well, again, I'll just add, I'm sort of speaking on behalf of the government here, but obviously this has been, 3 decades of history. I think from the province point of view, we have done that role, which was really that financial management role, and built those funds in absence, though, of a long-term plan. And I would just say that,
ladies and gentlemen, if you don't mind, if we could just let Mr. Mack finish his answer, please. Thank you.
So,
go ahead, please.
But anyways, maybe we'll let the questions come, because I don't know if that was actually a question wanting an answer, but maybe let's hear the rest.
Financially, there's no reserve funds, so there has not been money set aside. Why were the water licenses not taken away from Mr. Chapman under the Utilities Act?
Connie, do you want to try that one?
For sure. So the water licenses under the Water Sustainability Act cannot be taken away from the private water utility owner under the Utility Act. Under the Utility Commissions Act, what is allowed is the Comptroller of Water Rights is allowed to seize the management of the utility. In many cases, the seizure of a utility is a short-term solution, while a longer-term solution is looked for, whether that be the utility owner retake over the management, or that utility is sold or transferred to a local government. There has been lengthy discussions throughout the years, as you can imagine, but ultimately this utility is still privately owned by the Chapman family, and the Chapman family has retained that control as to whether they seek an acquisition or a sale of the utility. The Comptroller of Water Rights role has been in that day-to-day management, and since the seizure of 1990, the focus has been on ensuring that rates are going directly to the costs of the day-to-day operation of this system, and to slowly build up the reserve funds. Building up reserve funds takes time, but also the cost to run these systems continues to increase. And so the Comptroller of Water Rights, as we identified since 2009 to 2019, has really been focused on building up those reserve funds. And as was identified earlier, we have roughly 600,000 in the reserve funds to date. And that equated to roughly an increase every 2 years from 2009 to 2019.
Okay, one more quick follow-up if you could, and then we've got three other people with some questions.
In 2012, there was the bulk water agreement with the city that names Sage Mesa. The provincial government had the authority to force that Penticton deal to hook up Sage Mesa into that bulk water agreement. Why did you not do that in 2012?
As I stated, the Sage Mesa Water Utility was a privately owned utility, and the utility owner would have had to agreed to that agreement and to the sale of the Sage Mesa utility.
Okay, thanks for your patience. Now you're back for a second try. Go ahead.
Thanks. I feel like through this whole process, we've heard from Riley a lot, and I think you've been great. I was wondering if we were going to get to hear from our provincial representative throughout this process on what's being done to advocate on our behalf.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the question. There's been a lot of really insightful questions here tonight, and I'm reading all of your emails and the stress that everyone is under with what amounts to basically an economic eviction, which is what you're facing, is completely unacceptable. There's a gentleman here tonight who said, we know the province is responsible, and I think he hit the nail on the head. For my part, I've been working very closely with the RDOS and with Riley. Hardly a couple of days goes by that Riley and I are not talking about this, meeting about this as well. Donegal Wilson in the back. This is her ministry. She's a wealth of knowledge. So my party is working very hard behind the scenes. We have researchers looking for grants. We've made our position clear that it is the province's responsibility to meet their obligation to you as taxpayers who've been paying taxes and deserve not to be living like you're in a third world country. We continue to be in what I would call the negotiation stage with the province. And, I think Jim Zathino has pointed out several indicators that things are trending in the right direction. So I think it's important that we can allow those talks to continue. And for my part, we're all setting up a lot of meetings at UBCM, which is taking place at the end of this month. And then after that, we're back in session at the legislature where, we can take a different approach if those talks are not fruitful. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
My question is probably for Mr. Fillion. Just thinking back to when you said the system wasn't designed or you weren't considering upsizing for future development, but I know our OCP speaks to some development areas within the Sage Mesa area, specifically the Peter Brothers Plant Campy property. That was, I think, slated for multifamily, and even the Pine Hills area, I think, which is on Rock, was also slated for that. So, and just considering, partnership with PIB too, that would essentially be more users and would need that upsizing as well, wouldn't it?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Certainly, the PIB piece, if that is feasible and makes sense to go that route, they certainly have a lot more opportunity for development than what we do. And so if it made sense to consider future development in that regard, that would have to be taken into account, and any costs associated with future development would have to be a proportion to future development, so that the current residents obviously weren't paying for that, much like, the DCC process that I know you're familiar with, Warren, but others aren't familiar with. But basically the intent is that development pays for development, and it's not paid for by the existing taxpayer.
We have about 15 minutes left. We wrap it up at 8 o'clock. I know we have 3 questions left, so we'll either wrap it up then or at 8 o'clock, if that's all right. Sound good? Go ahead, please.
Eric, if you can just stop it at with the last gentleman, the third gentleman.
Yeah,
that's it.
Will do. Okay, go ahead, please.
Hi, my name is Rianne Stanway. My husband and I are another young family that bought here recently with absolutely no knowledge of this water systems issues, and this is all a surprise to us over the past few years. The overwhelming majority of the people in this room, we feel that the province has failed us. They seized management of a system and then dispute it all you want, skip around it all you want. They failed to manage that system in a way that benefited the people of that system. So now we have no reserve contingency, we have no clean water, and now we're being faced with a huge bill to try and get that up to what should have been done 30 years ago. So I guess my big takeaway tonight is that the last meeting, we were told that no grants could be applied for until we voted on this. And now we're being told, well, there's a little bit of flexibility given the severity of your situation, the fact that the province owns a little bit of it, even though they're not really admitting to any ownership of it. So more flexibility. Like the province should be giving us more flexibility. And that's what I'd like to hear, I guess, from the representatives tonight, is that they'll take that back and that they'll take the situation away and that they will fight for more flexibility. The government needs to step up here and fix what they did.
Now I think go to James. James, I don't know if you have an answer to that. I think it's a request, but just if you want to
Yeah.
just have the floor.
Yeah, well, I'd say, like, first off, we will take this back. I want to flag that you're struggling with a situation that we're hearing about, in many communities. Each one's unique, but each one's facing those pressures. I can only tell you, like, the rules of the day, that there's a long-standing provincial policy that's not within our role on water. This is a role within our Ministry of Municipal Affairs, but basically, private systems aren't eligible for public grants. And so by moving into a regional district or a local government model, that makes you eligible to get that kind of grant relief through government programs. I do want to flag, the exception on this one, which is not managed by us as a province. It's managed by the Union of BC Municipalities. They've allowed, basically, you can apply pending getting into that regional district. But, unfortunately for what you're facing, currently private water systems are funded by those ratepayers. That's where you can get that. And I know it's a heavy decision, but the benefit of joining a regional district is that access to other grant opportunities and that access to the different debt and financing mechanisms local governments have.
So what I'm saying is that that number is too big. It's too big of a pill to swallow for this number of residents. We can't afford it. Everything else is going up in price. That 7 million, it needs to come up and it needs to be a guarantee if you guys want to vote from yes. And I think everybody wants this to go through and agrees that it's, probably the right thing. But you guys are the managers right now. You want us to take it. So provide more assistance, give us more flexibility and guarantee us some funding. And then you'll have a yes vote, I think.
Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.
And that has been the message from the beginning, is to help with a viable path to a successful referendum. That's been the message to every minister, every meeting, every staff person. That's the request.
Go ahead.
I guess my first question is just to tag on to that. Is there any other system in BC that is being managed by the provincial government the way that ours is?
To date, right now, no. But we have had upwards of 6 since 1990, all of which have either been successfully sold by the.
Let's hear the whole answer. Sorry, can you say that again, please, Connie?
Sorry. To date, there is Sage Mesa is the only one currently under controller management. Since 1990, though, there has been roughly 6, of which of those 6 there has been successful either transfer to local governments or sale of that utility to other individuals.
And does any other water district or area of BC have to file a FOIPA to get that information about our financials?
I'm not aware about having to file a FOIPA. If you reach out to us, we have been sharing the information as requested.
That's what I'm meaning. We had to file a FOIPA to find out any information. So real estate brokers, those of us moving up into the area, had no way of getting this information, is what I'm trying to point out.
I'm not sure what your specific situations are. I know that over the years, the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship or Ministry of Forests, whoever held the water program, has worked closely with the Realtor Board to make sure realtors understood the different types of water systems to be able to educate buyers and sellers. I'd be happy to follow up with you if you have specific questions, and you can reach out.
Okay, and if people do want to reach our two provincial representatives, Director Gettens, I believe they can do that by sending an email to anyone within the RDOS, specifically.
Send me an email or, yeah, and I'll pass it on the email.
Okay, we have a gentleman behind you as our final question. I'm going to give you just a moment for a very quick follow-up, and then we'll wrap it up with the gentleman behind you.
And this is coming off the RDOS website, and it's saying that, did we ask the city of Penticton for a water service proposal? And apparently we have, but what it's saying in this answer in your website is that the province apparently is not as keen as what I'm reading to hook to city of Penticton. And I would like some clarification on that. And I could just read it out if I could see better. Sorry.
I think we'll just go right to see if we have an answer on that one. And then I think we're going to move on because I think we're just about done. But do we have an answer for that? The city of Penticton?
Yeah, well, I don't want to speak for the city of Penticton, obviously, and we'll have to review what's on our webpage, but I guess I would just reiterate the same, and I'm sorry if I sound like a broken record, but we need to evaluate what is the most cost-effective feasible solution, whatever that is.
Pointed out in the McElhaney study that the city of Penticton is the most feasible, and I also have a friend that's a water
Yes.
treatment engineer, and he also is saying it is significantly more affordable and will be much quicker, which improves our value of our home if we can connect to city of Penticton water. So how are we, when I'm reading this, I'm reading that the provincial government now prefers different approaches versus city of Penticton, and that's concerning to me.
Yeah, so thank you for the further question and allowing me the opportunity to clarify. So in that McElhaney report, it does identify the city of Penticton connection as about approximately 1.8 million cheaper, but there's a big asterisk beside that. And that big asterisk is that the city of Penticton does not fully understand yet all the required upgrades. And that's that information that will be coming to us later in 2026. And it could very well be that that ends up being the more expensive option, which is why, as I said before, we're going to evaluate all options and everything's on the table. And we want to make sure that we're doing the most cost-effective feasible. So I can't speak for the province, but from our perspective, we certainly want to do whatever the most cost-effective and what makes the most sense, whether that's connect to city of Penticton or not. And if I may elaborate just a little bit more, there could be a scenario where a connection to the city of Penticton as an interim measure also makes sense. So it's not an easy answer, and a lot of work still has to be done to make that decision.
I'm not asking another question. I just want the province to answer that. Why is there a statement that the province is more interested in pursuing other avenues than the city of Penticton? Can the province answer that?
Yeah, well, I'll just say, like, we don't actually have a say. The owner has to choose who they wish to sell to. Noting, I think the RDOS had mentioned it's sell for $1. So it's really out of our hands. I don't know where that statement came from, but as far as I'm aware, we don't have a preference, or we're not ruling out options for the system. That's really up to you to decide on the best path.
We'll go to the next question then.
Okay, final question.
Hi. Thank you very much. We've heard tonight about the responsibility of the province, but I regard having access to clean water a human right. And I think that what application has been made to the federal government, I've spoken to our local MP already, and the more I examine what waste has been going on in Ottawa, if the federal people can give some grants to access clean water amongst those provinces that do not have clean water for a number of years like us, then I think that we have a right to apply for a federal government grant as well. My second question is that we talk about 242 people, and we also have next door to us the Indian band. And I've spoken to Director Pierre tonight and the previous meeting. There's no certainty yet, but we should at least have an idea of how many people would be interested in sharing the system and when that would likely to be. And the third and last comment is that we've heard that Peter Brothers have now been sold to Venti, a worldwide company. I've spoken to them as well, whether they're going to do any building at the asphalt plant. They say there's no certainty yet. They're probably going to build downtown at the owner's land, but they could well be doing something at the asphalt plant as well if Venti take them over, and they're a very well-funded company. Thank you.
I don't know if there's really any questions I can answer. We've talked to our MP as well about federal grants, so she's amplifying the issue there as well. As far as what's happening in Peter Brothers, nothing has come to the regional district yet, so I can't comment on anything like that as well, but it's good information and really we can keep gathering and sharing information for sure. Yeah. So I think we are well past our time. I really appreciate everybody being here and putting up with the heat and asking great insightful questions. Thank you to our guests as well and also the staff coming along. So have a great night. Thanks.